It is indeed a pleasure to have this privilege to play here for you. We intend to give you a very fine program, so just settle back, relax, and enjoy the moment.
Good morning. What's up? What's up, Facebook? What's up, Twitch? What's up, YouTube? How y'all feeling? Different setup. Y'all not looking at my island where I eat my meals. Good morning. I didn't mean to pause it so abruptly. I love to hear it rock out, like fade out, like there we go. But yeah, good morning. I'm trying not to have this shit all up in my face, but I think it's gonna have to be in my face. Yeah. But anyway, good morning, y'all. Good morning. Oh, Ashley, good morning. Oh, I love to see the good people I know who are hardworking. Y'all are amazing, especially y'all who are parents and who getting it, who come and hop on and do what you got to do early. I think that's why I love coming on early, so maybe you could steal a couple minutes or so. But anyway, good morning. I'm super like it's a lot. It's a lot of news. Like just as I came on, we have this workplace subscription to Politico Pro, and I just saw that the Census Bureau apportionment data will be released today. So I, just thinking about what we shared at the local level about census data and that holding up Charleston City Council in terms of maps and what they need to do and how to proceed. Anyway, that's on my mind, but it's so much going on. Politico Pro is like a lot. Yeah. Thank you. Setup looks great. It's just my wall. It's my shout out to Headspace Murals. Headspace Design. What is it? I'm fucking it up. Sorry, Mackenzie. Sorry, Elliot. But Headspace Murals for hooking up. But yeah, we're gonna be here for a minute. The reason why I switched is I'm always telling y'all I can't see, I can't read. So I'm gonna use the darn 65-inch television that I have in my apartment, as my DJ Jared has told me to do. So yeah. Slinging Rice Krispies while you watch. Girl, extra butter, please. Thanks. All right. I'm going to get into the news. There's huge news yesterday, but let's start off how we always start off. Local weather, and that's not the weather. But there's a reason why I started there. I'm trying to see what currently in Charleston, what temp is it? Let's see if it. All right, here we go. Wouldn't refresh earlier. So it's currently 55 degrees right now in Charleston. Shout out Charleston weather. And then this is the forecast for the week. Today gonna be beautiful. This hoodie is coming off. Okay, it's a Knicks hoodie though, so that's why I'm wearing it. Go New York Knicks, 9-game winning streak. What's up? 90s is back. The 90s Knicks basketball is back. No, it's not. All right, so this is the forecast. It looks pretty dope. We got some good rain over the weekend. I had a beautiful weekend. Restful weekend. All right. So let's exit out of that. So this is the digital edition of our local paper here, Post and Courier, and of course, he's running, right? So I'm gonna share my thoughts on this. This is what I teased the video. I teased this, like what's my gripe about? Like what's at the crux of my criticisms of Cunningham. And I know I like to kiki and I enjoyed some really interesting back and forth on Twitter this weekend, or at least on Friday. Some really interesting back and forth. You know, we compared Joe Cunningham to maybe a mayonnaise sandwich and other things like that. Lighthearted, all in fun, right? But honestly, there is a critical concern with his candidacy, and also his you know, his even the fact that this is seen as a viable candidate, yes, in a deep red state like South Carolina. I'm going to get to that in a second. And I'm actually going to, if you are part of my Giving Project cohort, I'm going to just tease a bit of content that I was going to forward to you all within my cohort. A very interesting conversation on race and class led by two amazing Black minds that I want to share. And that conversation on race and class really talks about custodial politics, talks about, you know, what the right and the left engage in to constantly give us Joe Cunninghams, right? As opposed to giving us something different, something else to choose from, right? Okay, so we're going to get into that. Let me scroll down. This is the digital edition. And though this is 65-inch television that I'm looking at, y'all, though it's 65 inches, let me put my glasses on. So scroll down. We also have some highlights here. How police changed its narrative about black man shoved by soldier. I'm gonna click on that in a minute. Here we have South Carolina health officials confirm a little over 400 new cases of COVID-19 as plateau continues. And then here we got something really interesting. I did not go out and cop a Sunday paper, but we're gonna look at the yesterday's Sunday edition. I think that's what I got pulled up in the next tab. But yes, South Carolina Republicans see donations rise by taking on culture war ahead of 2022. Like, let me tell you something. This is what I peep game, especially after those numbers came back from Marjorie Taylor Greene. And this is something that the left engages in too. I think the left did this going into November. These culture war types conversation. Again, this is going to tie back to the conversation we're going to have about Joe Cunningham. And I really want people, like, don't be afraid of, well, if you work in politics and you got to keep it neutral and nonpartisan, you don't have to indict yourself. You don't have to implicate yourself in a rousing discussion about Joe Cunningham. But for those who can in the chat, I'm really going to encourage you to kind of flow with me and let's really engage what the issue is and how both parties do this shit, and how we saw this during the Harrison campaign, especially too. It's like certain messaging, and not saw this, but there's a tactic. There's a South Carolina tactic, and then there's a national D-trip tactic. But in this, I don't know. In this instance, I don't think that I'm going to make a distinction too much, because I think both local dem politics and national kind of move in the same way, right? So we're going to talk about that. But the culture wars, people are showing you culture wars are profitable. You can raise a lot of money. Now, money ain't elections, right? Money ain't votes, right? Dollars don't vote. But, and Jamie Harrison will tell you that. But this is a sign of health for the GOP. And we're seeing them do a lot of, that's why they can talk the way they can talk about, someone like Crystal Matthews running for Senate. They can talk like that, right? That's what their base wants. Their base wants vitriol. Their base wants, they want blood, right? So you can talk very disrespectfully about a candidate just because she announced her candidacy. That's it. And she's Democrat, and you can dismiss her as nothing but just an annoyance, right? So we're gonna maybe get into that a little bit. Maybe not the story itself, but we'll see. I'm actually gonna leave that tab up just in case I want to bounce over there. Law enforcement, we did a lot in law enforcement last year. I'm not saying I'm done with it. I'm not saying I'm tired. I just kind of want to pivot and make sure that we cover other issues as well. So I might not get to the whole change the narrative thing, story, whatever. So this was yesterday's paper. This is Sunday Post and Courier. I'm gonna go ahead and make it a full screen. Right, this is Sunday paper. full disclosure, did not spend my time reading this paper yesterday at all. I cracked it open this morning. All right. So, of course, the front page, not of course, but we got up here up top, coupons, yay. Charleston families hitting the road. Gamecocks hit the field, yada, yada, yada. Access to records remain uneven. FOIA review. Okay. Look at that. So as you know, right here, you see here, this is part of the investigative reporting arm of the Post and Courier. You see Avery Brooks here. I guess Adam's in this on this one too. I don't know if Adam is part of the investigative team. He might be. But yeah, access remains uneven about FOIA. We definitely need to read this. Folks, I'm going to encourage you to get your library card and make sure you follow up on this story, especially when they're trying to follow the money, huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, and remember now, too, that 2015, that watershed moment in 2015 with the body cam legislation being signed into act. Let me see. Let me just read this real quick. I'm going to turn to my monitor. Columbia, nearly 4 years after South Carolina lawmakers attempted to strengthen the state's Freedom of Information Act, compliance remains spotty, threatening the public's access to important public records. And this is a big problem. This is huge. I'm glad this made the front page above the fold of the Sunday paper. All right. The Post and Courier found in a review of Midlands area agencies. So, all right. So also goes on to say, months ago, the newspaper sent identical open records requests for more than 24 cities, counties, and school districts, colleges, and state agencies based around Columbia. Right. And so they're going on to say that those requests were not met. Right. So that's, yeah, that's a big issue. It's a big problem. Scrolling down yesterday's paper, we're going to skip that. Allegations of cronyism and ethics breaches sprout at South Carolina's newest governor's school, where agriculture education is a goal. Okay, so down here too, we have this. Of course, you know, if it's about Black history, you know, the Black history expert Adam Parker wrote it. Adam Parker wrote it. Rare Charleston Freedman's badge, a holy grail for finders. I actually made a tweet about this. It's so coincidental. I tweeted about how those collectors of slave badges and whatnot, I didn't know about Freedman badges, but you know, I just think that's just disgusting. I think people who collect these for gain, and even how this story is framed to be like, oh, this is such a coveted item, and then they immediately go into the collector says it's worth as much as a very good car. So like, to me, the value is not in, it's just, to me, our conversations around either slave badges and who collect, and people who collect them, and also now the Freedman's badges is so, it's just, to me, is distasteful, and it really does diminish what these artifacts represent to me. Now I haven't read the story. I'm sure Adam does his due diligence and it you know, is not going crazy in there, right? But I still think it being framed as just a collector's item versus like these are relics of a very, very painful point in our history, and it actually should be framed as such, not a rare find, a holy grail. These are relics of a very painful history, right? So especially as we talk about the origins of law enforcement and policing of Black bodies, as that conversation grows and grows more and more robust, I think it's important to kind of talk about it like that. All right, let's skip to today's front page of today's paper, the 26th. I'm so tired of this ad. I hope Classic Remodeling, I hope y'all ROI is like through the roof, because this shit is annoying. For real. I hope you're getting your, because that has to be a lot of money, as with American Biker. All right, so this is the front page of today's paper, y'all. All right, front page of today's paper. Post and Courier reaching for new heights. Let's scroll down. Let me scroll down. Scrolling down, not interested in that. Sorry, kiddos. Transit plan gives detailed preview. Okay, latest visual show, new bus stops and route. Okay, all right, cool. We scroll down. Oh, look what shit. Like, this is what killed me. All right, what's this about? What's this wall? What is this? A handful of area schools have incorporated climbing walls into curriculum, and then you're gonna put this down at the bottom. I can't. Hey, kid. Good morning. Yes, in regards to the freedmen's badge, it's still commodifying slavery. Absolutely. And when you frame it the way that it's framed in the paper yesterday, that's exactly how it looks like. Like, this is something that you could tell, like, maybe people who are preparing for the museum to open in 2022, you could tell, like, they'll sell things like that. It's a very icky, distasteful way to talk about such things, for sure. Yeah, little kids climbing a wall at the top, right? And then Cunningham, like, of course, Thomas Novelli wrote it. Thomas Novelli, not a bad writer at all, right? He's on the bro beat, though. He's on the bro beat. So he's going to cover the state's biggest bro, Broham. I'm going to call him Broham from now on. That's his nickname, Broham. Yeah, that's going to stick. All right, so let's hop into, I wanted to hop and see if there's any like statewide news. Let me hit refresh real quick. This is WLTX. Let's see what if there's some statewide news that I think there was something that I wanted to hop into. Let's hop into this right here. The South Carolina Senate budget debate. Let's just hop into this right here real quick. This is from, I believe, maybe the last night's news.
At the State House, debate begins Tuesday on the roughly $10 billion spending plan that starts July 1st. Senators are debating the state budget that ended up with a lot more money than expected. The spending...
See, this is the thing, like going into COVID, like we knew this. Like we had a surplus, right? Y'all keep me honest in the comment section. We had a surplus, right? Right. Shout out, going back to the conversation about the Freedmen's badges, Nicole. Absolutely. You could not sell and trade Nazi stuff. It ain't news work. Like, you not making news about it. It might be something that some trade show or some bullshit where you might find a George Zimmerman or something like that, or a Mitch McConnell. But you're not going to be able to sell exactly. Thank you, Nicole. I just want to acknowledge that comment about the Freedmen's badges. Okay, Ashley, you confirmed it. Yes. We did have a surplus, right? So going into COVID, I always kept this at the top of my mind. I'm like, we're not in bad shape financially for some pretty reasons, right? But let me rewind it, y'all. So y'all hear. So Tuesday, this tomorrow.
At the State House, debate begins Tuesday on the roughly $10 billion spending plan that starts July 1st. Senators are debating the state budget that ended up with a lot more money than expected. The spending plan includes a 2% raise for state employees and a $1,000 raise for all teachers.
Scarcity's a myth. Scarcity's a myth.
Lawmakers have nearly $1.7 billion extra to spend in the next fiscal year. After May, both senators and House members expect to return in special sessions to deal with this additional spending and the federal COVID-19 relief money.
Like hogs and slop. They got a lot of stuff to play with right there. Yeah, so that's interesting to keep in mind. I wanted to click on this story really quickly. This caught my eye. I wanted to know more.
Starting Monday, schools across South Carolina will be required to offer in-person learning to students 5 days a week. But this could cause struggles for some districts as the state is seeing a major shortage in substitute teachers. Scotty K tells us more.
What people often don't.
Kia, real quick about your comments about Joe Cunningham, and we're gonna get into Joe real quick. I don't know if it's a slap in the face to Mace. Mace won a congressional seat. I don't know how to look at it. Jessica, you say all the teachers get is $1,000 each out of all of that money. All right, that's crazy.
Don't understand is that substitute teachers are critically important to the operation of schools and critically important to the education of students.
We've talked about the teacher shortage crisis in South Carolina, but there's also a substitute teacher shortage crisis as well.
We had one prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic, like so many things in our society, has exacerbated the problem.
Patrick Kelly with the Palmetto State Teachers Association says substitute teachers are more important now than they ever have been, as students have experienced an incredible disruption to learning over the past 14 months because of COVID.
In an average year, the district was able to fill 85% of daily teacher absences with a substitute teacher, so they could fill 85% of those slots. This year, they've been trending closer to 45%.
As a teacher himself, Kelly says he's witnessed this firsthand.
A teacher has to give up their planning period, an administrator gets pulled to cover a classroom, or what my school has increasingly had to do is basically create a glorified study hall where multiple classes of students come together in the school's auditorium.
That sucks. That sucks. In the auditorium. I know I cut him off. I'm trying to just move through it. That sucks. All right, in the chat and on Twitch in the chat, you're saying, "Child, please, 1K is still not enough." And I know, Kia, you got a very keen perspective on this. How many years of no raises? Y'all ain't had no raises? For real? My entire first grade team and half the second grade team are leaving. Wow, just on your floor. Wow. Good morning, Court. Ain't that, yeah, same reaction here. That's really sad. Like, I'm telling you, again, I know folks are tired of hearing me say this, but the single most politicizing event in my life was transferring from New Jersey school systems. Now, granted, you know, this wasn't yesterday. This was, you know, a long time ago. But transferring from New Jersey schools to South Carolina schools and being met with such an inadequate experience, and it's not, no shade to all of the hardworking teachers who actually gave a fuck, but those that I encountered, the majority of teachers that I had to encounter and I had to learn from, it was just such a, you know, part of it is on them, right? But I'm talking about the teachers that weren't really the greatest, but also like the bigger picture was how the school system in and of itself was just so woefully inadequate. And it literally was like a defining period in my life and taught me, even though I didn't have that perspective, right, of what this really was, of like, okay, what is this? This is the bigger issue about race. This is the bigger issue about inequity, right? This is the bigger issue about how South Carolina never really reconciled with a lot of its past, right? Because that impacts education tremendously, not just in what's taught, but how they approach and prioritize education. It just really made me like step. I'm like, wow, these schools are really, really sad. And it really made me run for the hills, literally, my experience in public schools here. And to just know that the problem has just has changed and morphed into something else. I don't even want to say worse. I want to say it's just really the problems have just become just so hard to ignore. And they always have been there, right? You know, South Carolina has never really been ranked to the top and you know, at the top in terms of education, but now we're seeing why. I think we're getting more, or at least maybe because I'm older and I care more about the why. But for me, it feels like the why is being explained more thoroughly than I've ever heard. So, yeah, no raises. That's sad, you know. And you show what you care about, right? What you spend time and money on is what you care about. And we care about tourism and we care about manufacturers coming here and having a workforce that's undervalued and underpaid. All right, so I'm gonna hop over to this next tab, local news. Let me see, there was something here, was there? I wanted to hop on here because, you know, this is the Charleston Morning Show. Let's hop over here to just this one bit of law enforcement, whatever, it's in Mount Pleasant. Let's just give it a whirl. Law enforcement news.
Tidewater Pharmacy, one location participating in the Drug Take Back Day. These events provide Americans the opportunity to prevent drug addiction and overdoses. Collecting unwanted or unused prescription.
This is crazy. Don't be the dealer.
Prescription drugs, the goal of.
So many thoughts on this, y'all, about how we engage in terms of getting drugs off the streets in Mount Pleasant. Where's the bin where they put the cocaine?
Of the Take Back Day. The Mount Pleasant Police Department had officers assisting with the effort at both
Where's the cocaine drop off? Where's that at?
Walmarts and Tidewater Pharmacy. According to the DEA's website, in 2019, nearly 10 million people misused prescription painkillers. A national survey shows that a majority of those misused drugs came from family or friends or the home medicine cabinet.
The way we talk about drugs,
Take Back Day held in October 2020.
The way we talk about drugs, in I'll say Tri-County area is confounding. So I'm not even gonna spend time on that at all. Yeah, I'm gonna hop over to Live 5 real quick. Okay, so we're gonna hop into this story. We know this guy ads. We hate going to the site. That's why we like YouTube. We can sidestep ads, but we're gonna go there. But also this happened. Had no clue. When I tell you, all I did was kick it with my parents, chill out, read, watch the Knicks beat down the Raptors on Saturday. Like, I totally just, I don't really watch news on weekends because let me check out the chat on Twitch real quick. Jessica, Kia, you brought some great points about women's suffrage. Yeah, most female white teachers in the South are just a teacher for something to do because they have wealthy husbands. And Kia, that transcends teachers. That transcends education. You see that pattern everywhere. Like the white women who couldn't afford to take lower paying jobs, or who don't have this gripe with education, with compensation and education here. That transcends teaching, but that's so profound. Thank you for mentioning that. And also too, like historically, we got to remember now what the damage that was done around the civil rights movement, that had ramifications for years to come, right? So the damage that was done in terms of refusing to allow graduates from historically black colleges in South Carolina, refusing those graduates from getting certified, refusing to let them get certified, firing people who, and this is what y'all know how it is here, like the labor laws here, right? And at will state. So like, also back during the civil rights movement, like we know Septima Clark, right? She was fired, but not just fired. They took her pension, right? And so anyone else who was affiliated with the NAACP or any other types of subversive groups, they faced similar penalties. And so whole graduating classes of educators met this wall, this opposition, and either could not educate, could not go on to teach, or probably had to leave the state and flee to some other area and try to pursue that path somewhere else. There are so many things that impact our current state of education. So many things, even from the civil rights era, yes, that impacted me directly, that had a correlation to my quality of education as a graduate of Charleston County public school systems, right? Y'all lighten it up. I was joking about the cocaine and Adderall. Come on, come through. Where we dropping that off, Mount P? Okay. You stop clicking my tongue. All right, yeah. Shout out Kia, yo. Yeah. Y'all, let's let it all out. Yeah, keep ranting. That's please do, for real. You never know who's like watching that can really just offer you support as well. Good morning, D. All right, let's not forget CCSD did not allow black teachers for decades. Come on. Good morning, Same Facade. Come on. All right, let's play this story. Left turn. We're in this careening car called Mic'd Up with Mika in the Morning. This car will careen from left to right, from story to story. Just hang on, wear your seatbelts, buckle up. Here we go to another story with an ad that I'm gonna have to mute, I'm sure. Let me see if I can mute the ad. And then they move the
when you get injured on the job, the insurance companies, they
move the volume button. Like, I'm such an old lady. Like, it's up here, but then it'll go like when I want to make it. But let's watch this. I can't even enlarge it. Oh my God, I hate this, y'all. Did it start recounting again? Okay, sorry for the silence, awkward silence. All right, here we go. Oh, I could have hit skip. Okay.
New tonight, police are investigating a deadly shooting on King Street, right near the King Street Cabaret. The Charleston Police Department says officers responded to a call just before 8:30 tonight. They say when they got there, they found 2 men had been shot. This is some video from that scene earlier.
I didn't hear about this. King Street Cabaret. Somebody who, I don't know. Wait, hold up.
Just before 8:30 tonight. They say when they got there, they found 2 men had been shot. This is some video from that scene earlier this evening. Officers say one of those men died at the scene and the other was taken to a hospital. Police say they do not have any updates on the man's condition, the one that's in the hospital, and they have also not released any information about possible suspects at this time. We're going to continue to...
But the riots, the Black Lives Matter. I'm not diminishing. Someone lost their life. I'm not being silly with that. I don't want to be too sloppy with it. But like this part, they saying King Street, y'all, but y'all know what part. That ain't King Street. Like that's up there off of Meeting, right? So that's up there where Low Country Local first was. That's where all that development's going down. What else is over there? A couple of breweries are over there. That new US Foods is over there, right? So that's like over the train tracks that you can cross even though the train is coming. Never seen anything like that. Yeah, like that's not King Street proper. No, I know, right? No, it's King Street. They taking liberties, right? So this is like just like they took parts of like Arndale that damn near made it Mount Pleasant. So it's technically King Street. It's like where On Radio was on King Street, Workshop was on King Street. It's not really King Street. It's off a Meeting. When you go up, yeah, like you damn near in North Charleston right there. Seriously, like you'll be in North Charleston in like 5 minutes. Right, near Santee's, the good one. Let me stop saying the good one. My favorite Santee's. I love them all. But yeah, it's there. Thank you, Evelyn, from chiming in. That's wild. You never hear any y'all tell me if I haven't seen too much come from there. Couple things, but nothing like that, right? So that's one. Then let's get into the Joe Cunningham announcement, because let me just get into it, right? Okay, of course we're gonna have a nice juicy
When you get injured on the job, the insurance company says a lot of things.
Oh my God, y'all, I'm over it. Let me chop into the chat real quick. Yeah, the new Meeting Street extension, right? Going through low income house. Yep. And also like historic.
It only takes a few
cemetery.
minutes to protect your rights.
Well, new this morning, a former congressman is solidifying his spot in the upcoming race for governor. Joe Cunningham changed his Facebook background photo overnight to this. It shows him with his 3-year-old son next to the word.
Okay, so the tweet that got not everybody, but the tweet that got Joe's team, specifically Tyler. Tyler is. How you doing, Tyler? If you watching, since you jocking my Twitter, since you search Joe Cunningham's mentions all day for a hobby, how you doing, Tyler? So I tweeted, what was that, on Friday? I'll pull it up. Just name an instance where this dude don't got a prop. Just name it. Just give me an instance where this dude don't have a prop, and I'll be damned. He does use his child as a prop. I'm over it.
Cunningham governor. He's also updated his website. Last week, Live 5 News reported Cunningham filed the paperwork with the state to mount a run for governor. He served one term as a congressman representing the state's 1st congressional district. He lost his re-election bid in November to former state lawmaker Nancy Mace.
Yeah, let me pull up the Twitter, because that's what set it off. And so let me pull up the Twitter like I'm fucking 80. Let me pull up the Twitter. Yeah. Hey, Courtney, how come every time I pull up Twitter, it's Courtney's face? And it's a crazy tweet, but she put it up there, so it's not my fault that y'all saw that. All right. Sorry, Courtney. Let me make it smaller. Courtney is a mess. I love it. Be yourself, sis. Be yourself, sis. I'm trying to get to my profile. Y'all know how the struggle is real on this big ass TV. Lord, hold on. It's like, this is crazy. Here we go. Here's the Negro agitator. Go to my thing. Oh, Granny, you don't know how to use Twitter, Granny. All right. So, okay, how'd it go out? Yeah. We're going to talk about food and bev too. All right. So, oh, we're going to play this. Shout out to Fernando. Shout out to the homie. We're going to play this video that he got when Fernando was working for Fight for 15. This is right around the primaries. We're going to get into this sound right here. I love it. Journalists, support local journalism, y'all. All right. So this was one tweet because I was really tired. So this happened. Okay. When Joe was running for his first term, right, as Congress, right, So why didn't Joe Cunningham use the wife? You know why. Kid, you know why. Stop being messy in my comments. All right. So, all right. So this is what really kills me, and being serious, right? So I remember when I was on Facebook primarily, I'd always raise these critical questions about Joe Cunningham and his candidacy, right? To me, there was so much to ask him and to push him on to make him a better candidate, right? And I just felt like they didn't have to, especially given the dynamics of that race. Remember, he was running against then Katie Arrington. We know that unfortunately Katie Arrington suffered this really nearly fatal suffered this injuries from a car accident, near fatal car crash, which actually, surprisingly to me, I don't know if someone else has another look or view on it, didn't slow down her campaign. I don't think her politics are not in line with mine, right? But I don't think we talk about what that woman had to do and kept running for Congress. Because let me tell you something, I would have packed it up. I've been like, I don't know, I don't feel this. I gotta learn how to walk again. Like someone in her car passed away, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so that accident happened, and then Joe Cunningham stumbled across, because this was not strategy. It was just taking advantage of the moment. So kudos to his team at the moment. I believe Mariah was on that team, Mariah Hill, who then went on to work on other campaigns, especially the Biden campaign, at least statewide. So he stumbled across Katie Arrington's faux pas, which is she ran afoul of the waterfront property owning, very moneyed, very prestigious voting base. And she was like, no, I'm all in for offshore drilling. And she fucked up. She fumbled the ball, right? Because honestly, if it wasn't for that, she probably would have been elected. She would have beat Joe. But he stumbled across that, and then we saw the emergence of Joe Cunningham, Joe Cunningham, the single issue candidate. All he talked about was offshore drilling. You saw him in a scuba suit. You saw him touting, his education in that field of y'all tell me what it was. It wasn't marine biology. What was it? Because there was a discrepancy about what his credentials were in that science, in that marine science, right? But you saw him be reduced to a single issue candidate. And so he didn't have to talk to anything else. He didn't have to speak to anything else. And I guess that the team must have gotten the numbers, whether primarily probably through money raised and other data to suggest that that's all he had to do. That was his sweet spot, was just become a single issue candidate. And I don't care how red this state may be and how it moves, I don't think we can afford to have single issue candidates. I just don't think. I think we deserve more than that. And that's just one aspect of my analysis, right? So, but what I've gotten is, as I have this conversation, albeit on social media, about Joe Cunningham, whenever I criticize this man, I mean, the amount of folks come out for your primary operative to be searching your mentions to buck back at a black woman about Joe Cunningham's lack of depth as a candidate. That to me is just like, first of all, what the fuck are you worried about? Where's your focus? That's number one. But the way that they come out and try to course correct or change the narrative, and instead of being savvy politicians and saying, okay, we got this big mouth over here saying stuff we don't want her to say, and she might have a little bit of influence here. How do we speak to her and make an appeal to her and show her more? Instead of being fucking savvy, you all up on my little bit of 2,000 followers, right, on Twitter, bucking back about the dude, using a prop. So I'm calling all these Joe Cunningham sycophants Captain Saver Joes, because I'm over it. So yeah, it's just, and stop white-splaining Joe's race analysis to me. He has none. He has none. His race analysis unfortunately, will be representation. His race analysis will be that mad dash that we know is going on right now for all of the good top tier state level black operatives, right? Black operatives, black staffers, black endorsements. That's his race analysis. He's going to do exactly what James Smith did, right? And come out talking about he got the divine 9 of advisors and all that other stuff. And if you white, you don't know what the divine 9 is, Google it. I ain't going to explain it to you. So like, you're going to pull from the James Smith handbook, and representation is going to be your race analysis, and that's not enough. And so my criticism of Joe then is so similar to my criticism of Joe now, which is, when are y'all gonna push him to be better on things like race? When are y'all gonna, and y'all meaning the liberal brace that's just like, all he has to do is show up with that Party of Five fucking, what's the brother from Party of Five, the stubble, whatever, show up with this like iconic 90s stubble, come up with this thing, and like y'all just melt, and it's just like, y'all, I want a better candidate. So and first of all, I'm a black woman in South Carolina, right? I know how to fucking show up and vote. I know how. We've been carrying the water. We've been doing the work forever. Okay, so you can chill with like telling me how to do this. But the dude needs to. I want to vote for somebody. If I gotta hold my nose and pull that lever, I want to vote for someone who at least took into consideration some of this critique about his lack of specificity, his lack of nuance, his lack of depth around these issues. Period. Yeah, Captain Saber go. I mean, we gotta make Joe Cunningham's nickname stick. So he's Broham, and his sycophants are Captain Saber Joes. Absolutely. I could see me going to Trader Joe's now and getting a bunch of Trader Joe's like food or whatever. Justin, what's up? Good morning. You said, did they have anything else to say about the win? I'm gonna. No, they didn't say anything. And that's a shout out to everybody who clapped back in my thread, who kept bringing up things like Medicaid for all and bringing up the wage gap and whatnot, right? So I'm gonna just show the original tweet. Oh, right here. Which, look, y'all, 37 fucking likes. Like, come on, this is nothing. This is nothing, right? Name one memorable Joe Cunningham speech that didn't involve, and I said bullhorn, but I meant air horn, but I just got caught up with the alliteration. So y'all got it though. I think y'all got it. Remember the air horn? Remember that? The air horn? Yeah. Bro Brewski Joe. I can't say that. I'm gonna say Broham. Yeah, so 37 fucking likes, 2 quote retweets. This is not what I'd consider viral. However, who comes up in there? Tyler Jones. And if y'all don't know who Tyler Jones is, right? I don't know about. All right, so this is over here on John's Island. Speak strategic, right? Right? Made history with Joe Cunningham, and he's still making history, right? So yeah, I don't want to call him. There's a term I was going to use from sports. I don't think it applies to Tyler, but Tyler is one of the sought after, operatives in the state, right? Very, very, Broham, right? So this came out 13 minutes ago.
Empathy, respect,
let's play
hard work. My parents taught me empathy, respect, hard work. And when life knocks you down, to always get
that wife be MIA, huh?
Back up. When I was a little older than he is now, I had a terrible speech impediment.
Okay. So real talk. You just brought up the speech impediment, right? And you remember Joe did that too, right? I think that is treating the soil. This is not me being ableist, but one of the other criticisms and critiques of Joe Cunningham is he's not a really good public speaker, and he's not. So I think, remember now, these ads are not just to make you feel good. These ads are not just to tell a story. These ads are also like little tidbits to kind of offset or preempt certain other attacks, right? So we know that Joe Cunningham is not the best public speaker. Now, I never really thought about it as like a stammer or anything. It just felt like he just wasn't natural. He just like Joe Biden, had a speech impediment, I believe. But you look at Joe's career over the past 40 years, Joe Biden is a great, he has presence, right? He's very affable, especially when he was eulogizing the racist ass Strom Thurmond. Really affable, likable Joe, right? So I think when we're seeing speech impediment here, now this just came out 13 minutes ago, y'all. That's interesting timing. But again, he released this last night. He made news last night. I got a call from the camp last night. So things are coming into place. I got a call from the camp last night. Not a stand down call, but more like, this is what it is called, right?
But thanks to teachers who cared, overcame it, and kept moving forward. When the recession hit, like so many Americans, I lost my job, my house, and my purpose. But I got through it. And a little over a decade later, I made it here. I ran for Congress because I wanted to look back and show my son that anything is possible if you keep getting up.
It's really interesting what they're doing with his son. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. Jessica, you said Biden had an issue with stuttering. Yeah, okay.
And I'm glad I did. In Congress, I kept my promise to protect our coastline, to bring Democrats and Republicans together to actually get things done.
Centrist, moderate, not necessarily courageous.
To help small businesses that were hit hard by COVID-19. And we passed.
Hold up. Okay, I'm gonna stop with the propaganda. And then here you go, Mother Emanuel. Remember we talked about this shot last week, right? We talk about how the Democrats gifted him this shot, right? Clyburn's in the back. Councilman Gregory's in there. We have the former the interim pastor at Mother Emanuel after the shooting. A lot of highfalutin black clergy right here, right? And don't get it twisted. I know I talk a lot of shit about the black clergy and I guess black clergy and more traditional voting and whatnot. They hold a lot of power. And when I was let's say excommunicated, when I was exiled, I guess, from the political sphere in South Carolina, it was because of someone said that I ran afoul of black male clergy, which wasn't true, but all you have to do is float it out there. That's all you have to do, right? So this is Tyler Jones, and so this is going to be the dude running Joe's campaign, right? For all intents and purposes. But I brought that up because he responded directly. So to see such a high profile operative respond to my tweet, and it was a shitty reply too, right? So he trots out this corny. Y'all know how I feel about the Charleston Forum and all this type of nonsense, nonprofit industrial bullshit where they traffic in pain and oppression that black people experience. I'm not even gonna click this because this speech was trash, right? But yeah, so I talked about Joe's lack of depth where he doesn't use a prop like a beer, a bullhorn, a baby, or a brewery as a backdrop, right? Yep, I'm killing the alliteration this morning. But the response was so tone deaf because then you tried to, I just said props. I didn't even say anything about his lack of race analysis. Tyler's response was here, and I don't know if y'all can see it. I know I'm killing y'all. Tyler's response here was, this is one of my favorites. Let me do it one more time. This is one of my favorites. He discusses racial inequity, social justice, and voting rights. And shout out to the homie who hit me up a text in response to that. Yeah, Tyler, we know you wrote it. Tyler, we know you wrote the speech. That's why you trotting it out. Right? That's why you trotting it out. We know you wrote it. So that's cool. But bruh, I said props. I just said he lacked depth and substance. And then shout out to all y'all coming through with the receipts, right? But what has Joe done, right? So you want to, in your ad, you want to talk about what you've done for businesses trying to, claw their way back from COVID-19. So this looks like I don't know if this is the New York Times. It looks like the New York Times font. 8 million have slipped into poverty since May as federal aid has dried up. 2 new studies, someone just talked about the CARES Act, right? South Carolina Democrat Joe Cunningham votes against his party $3 trillion coronavirus stimulus package, right? Written by Caitlin Bird when she was at the Post and Courier. She's now at the State. All right. Another headline. This is by Andrew Brown. South Carolina minimum wage not nearly enough to pay to live in Charleston. New study shows. But we know that Joe Cunningham voted against legislation that would support that. South Carolina Democrat Joe Cunningham breaks with party, votes no on $15 minimum wage. Again, written by Caitlin Bird. So this is the track record, dude. Don't come at us. And then the Trump card, that's the thing that has nothing to do with the former white supremacist in chief. The Trump card of all of that was this captured by Fernando Soto. Y'all check him out. Y'all make sure you support. I'm gonna try to make sure you support Spanish news. Here I go with my New Jersey stuff. We call everybody who speaks Spanish and they're not Spanish. But support Latinx news, support Latinx journalism, grassroots journalism. Follow your boy right here. Awesome, right? So he got this great.
Lost the job, hours.
So this is in the airport, and this is when Fernando, I'm putting out all your business. When you were doing some work with Fight for 15. Again, this is around the time of the primary.
The business we talk to talk about how it will result in loss of jobs, hours, paid wages. So the businesses we talk to actually said that it would result in people getting laid off and have less hours.
But that's because business owners don't want to take a cut in their profits.
I don't.
So shout out to journalists and reporters who ask a follow-up question and who are not afraid of the answer.
I think that's necessarily the case, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. Did you talk to any business owners?
Condescension. No, he's just in your face, being an irritant.
Yes, I actually work with a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
I work for a drywall and painting company that pays a livable wage, and so that means that the owner, the CEO of the company, is taking less at the end of the year, at the end of the day. But his employees are well taken care of. I worked in the food industry for 7 years, making $213 as a server, making great tips.
If you don't know Fernando, if you don't know this dude, he don't ask a question without having like he not just asking questions. He not a social media troll, y'all. He's a trained journalist. You feel me? Right? Like, so to assume, I don't know what assumptions were being made, but he's one of like the most capable journalists I've met in this city. Seriously, he ain't working at y'all's favorite paper, and nor should he have to necessarily, right? But like, I don't know, like, would you ask that question of any other? I don't know. It's just weird, and like, he's gonna come prepared with the question and with some context.
And I think that, you mentioned earlier that people that are working as servers would end up taking a hit later on.
Yeah, and I worked as a server too, and I realized that on a lot of nights you make over $15 an hour. But the people who made over $15 an hour working as servers with tips would see their wages cut. And the restaurant owners I talked to in Charleston told me that they would have to be cutting hours. They'd be.
See, and now this is an older clip, right? And I'm sure they're gonna move some of his politics a little left on this. But why? How dare you center the business owner, right? And I know it's a tweet that's been circulating. I saw it in talking about this. I think Paul Bowers, and then maybe an unrelated thread or something like that. He either retweeted or liked it. I saw that, but like, if you can't afford to pay your workers, if you're a business owner and you can't afford to pay your workers a living wage, then you shouldn't be in business. And it's the truth. If exploiting your worker base is a business strategy, you deserve to get called out, and you deserve to hear it from folks and answer this question, period. Evelyn, yeah, to Joe, but D, you said that he was dismissing him. Joe was dismissing Fernando for sure. Evelyn, you said he knows he has to fundraise and he knows who holds the bag. Absolutely, right? Jessica, you said, is he serious? Anyone who has had a job has seen employers pull that save a buck shit. Absolutely. Absolutely. Y'all are killing it. Y'all are killing it. What's Twitter? I'll go back to his Twitter handle in a second.
Cutting employees,
right? Because they don't want to take profit cuts.
No, or they have to raise menu prices. Right. So there's some effects in a state like South Carolina where you go from doubling the minimum wage that just aren't as sustainable as they are in other states.
I think it is sustainable.
Okay, we'll stop it right there. So again, Fernando is right here. You can find Fernando on Twitter. I don't want to cut him off. I'm gonna cut his all right. Yep, founder of, I cannot pronounce it right. Let me try. Nuestro Estado. I hope I didn't butcher it. Estado, excuse me. Nuestro Estado. He gonna learn me. Now at 94 Fernando Soto. Okay? So definitely has a very compelling story, personal story, and just extraordinarily like capable. such a really bright and shining star. I'm telling you, just amazing. But this was part of the like, so when you pin Joe down on things like this, and look, I'm not going to sit here and tell y'all that we can do what blue states do, right? That politicians can engage prospective voters like politicians do in blue states, like Democratic candidates do in blue state. I'm saying, where is the conversation? Where is the desire and the hunger coming out of this past race, coming out of this past administration? Where is the hunger to make him a better candidate? And if not making him a better candidate by giving him some competition or having somebody else run, because I'm sure those conversations happen all weekend. Look, don't run, Mia, because this is what we got for you. This is what we'll offer you if you don't run. All right, don't run person X, right? And when I say me, I'm talking about Mia McLeod. I'm sure those conversations have already started because this is a juggernaut of a candidate. But I don't think he's infallible, and and it's just it always disappoints me when we keep trotting out the same type of white male candidate that lacks the courage lacks courage or conviction, right? And to me, it's just disappointing. Courtney, you wrote, Joe was about to look real funny in the light voting against wages and fair treatment for employments after a pandemic. You're 100% right. You're 100% right, Kia. You said you have friends in F&B at well-known Charleston restaurants, who have worked. The chat just jumped. Who have worked to second restaurant, just to get a living wage. And this is Charleston. Justin says, sounds like his class analysis sides with the ruling class. Absolutely. Status quo, nicer face. Right. Absolutely. Y'all are killing it. Hey, Jazz, good morning. Yep. I don't know. I don't know. I'm saying those conversations are likely taking place. I don't know if Mia isn't running, but those conversations have taken place, probably telling her to stand down. Right. I'm in these conversations in Camden, New Jersey. Claire, for clarity, the candidate I'm working with in Camden, New Jersey, we've had these conversations because of there's a upcoming primary, and so it's so funny because I'm having these conversations about how he's gotten the calls and how this is not new. This is something you would anticipate. He's gotten the calls. Hey, drop out now. Join our ticket. We'll give you X. We'll give you this. Give you that. But I know too they're trying to eliminate the competition. And now because what Joe is probably doing, and I'm not going to divulge the name, but Joe's already hired, made a key hire that's going to signal something to black folks, right? So he's already made a key hire that's going to signal something to black people. So right now, Tyler and the gang are getting Broham ready to just grab up all of the high quality, top tier black endorsements, black surrogates, black coalitions. They're gonna go to the traditional black women who quote unquote run South Carolina politics, who can get all the church ladies out. They're making that mad dash now, right? And I just want to have fuck his candidacy, right? Because we knew it was coming. I just want to have a honest conversation about what he doesn't have, right? Oh God, it's 8:30. We're not going anywhere. I'm gonna hang on till 9, and I didn't even get to food and bed, but we're gonna get to that in a second. So, actually, I think that's my thing with Joe. This is what I wanted to do though. So yeah, if you're in my cohort at the if you're in my cohort. With the Giving Project, the Giving Project with Cypress Fund, we just can't. We're trying to get through race and class, right? So we're not separating this conversation of race and class. We don't separate it. Shout out to my co-facilitator Whitney Shepherd. Whitney Shepherd, was very adamant about not separating race from class when talking about race and class, right? We want to talk about racialized capitalism. We want to talk about plantation capitalism, talk about the origins of this very severe form of capitalism in America. And part of that is I'm sourcing materials that the cohort can consume, can read, can listen to, can view whenever they want, right? So this conversation posted, I think last week or the week before, it's a conversation between Eddie Glaude, Professor Eddie Glaude, and y'all know Bree from Bad Faith, but also from the Bernie campaign, right? And I wanted to play a little bit of this conversation, and this is how I'm entering this conversation about Broham. It's not just, oh, I think he's whack and I'm just loud. No, he's woefully like incomplete in some areas. And we're, instead of saying, hey, yo, since y'all gonna send us this Build-A-Bear, how about we fucking stuff some shit in there that we want in this motherfucker? Like, how about we stuff some fucking courage in there? How about we stuff some thoughtful fucking race analysis and class analysis in there? How about we do that, right? And I believe there's a way you could do that. You can make an argument about policy that isn't even about race, that doesn't even traffic in that representational bullshit. And that's the thing that we're trying to get to. You can actually talk about policies and not traffic in the culture war bullshit. You can. But see, the left, as much as the right, has gotten an appetite for talking about it at this really overly simplistic level. And I'm like, yo, can we heighten this level of discourse around this candidate and where he is incomplete? Instead of trolling me on fucking Twitter, pick up your fucking phone and hit me on my jack and be like, yo, what are you seeing, Mika, that we're not seeing? Because that's what I'm trying to, I don't know how else to say this. I don't know how else to kind of to position this argument, right? I didn't mean to go off like, yes, I did. Let me see on Twitch what you're saying. Honestly, they should walk every service should walk. Right, we're gonna get there. Hold on. Let me see if I missed anything. Anyway, let me just play this clip real quick because time is not on my side. All right, let me play this clip.
Him, we could not.
And yes, this is a little academic, but roll with a sister real quick, because I think this part, it's so many parts. I went over this thing 3 times between yesterday and today, and there's so many parts I wanted to play for y'all. I invite y'all to go to YouTube, or more importantly, as you go to iTunes and you listen. Hey, what's up? As you go to iTunes and you listen to the latest episode of Mic'd Up. Yes, I recorded my first podcast episode in so many months. So a new episode of Mic'd Up is now on iTunes, on Spotify, on Google, wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm pretty much there, right? So iTunes, Spotify, Google, those are the top 3. You go, you download, you listen, you rate, you subscribe to my podcast. But I also want you to go and find the Bad Faith podcast, okay? And I want you to listen to this entire conversation. But I'm going to play this part that I think pertains specifically to my criticism, my critique about Joe Cunningham.
Predicate our politics on changing their minds and souls. They had to do that themselves, which is, I was like, well, I don't know that they would. I don't know what would motivate them to do so. Okay, but we'll move past that because we talked about that a little bit. And our after times, our task that is not to save Trump voters. It isn't to convince them to give up their views that white people.
So she's reading an excerpt from Eddie Glaude's book, that was released not too long ago. So just track with me though. Don't leave.
People ought to matter more than others. Our task is to build a world where such a view has no place or quarter to breathe.
Right.
Now, I read a sentence like that, and my question is, what does it look like? What does that mean to build a world where there is no place or quarter to breathe? Because if we're talking about let's pursue policies that lift up the working classes and make racism less appealing, then we're on the same page. But what I often read statements like this from interlocutors who are not especially invested in that universalist working class policy project. What they are invested in is ideas of, let's have a commission on racism. Let's talk about racism. Let's root out racism. We have to be anti-racist. At the same time, they ignore progressive politicians, progressive policies, completely allow Joe Biden to get away with throwing the $15 minimum wage under the bus, allow us to get away with not having a conversation about healthcare as a human right in the middle of a global pandemic, are openly derisive of figures like Bernie Sanders and his supporters, calling them brown shirts and racist and every other kind of thing. And what it feels like is sometimes this very emotive anti-racist language becomes a stand-in for doing the substantive policy work that I agree can do a lot more to act.
So I don't know why it's a short out like this. I'm gonna have to do, but real quick, what I want to say is, as far as I'm concerned, right? So this is the part that I'm gonna put on the Bernie campaign, but also kind of come full circle about kind of get closer to Bernie than I ever have. I always said that Bernie just couldn't get that racial analysis right? And there's times where he did shit that really fucked with me, right? Like going on Joe Rogan's podcast, or trying to sidestep certain things here in South Carolina. in effort to woo the Iowa voter and so on and so forth, right? Like sometimes I felt like he deprioritized South Carolina, but then whatever. I always thought that Bernie had a trash race analysis. I now see, especially this last run, that they were trying to make a bigger argument without doing that pandering shit that the left is known for. And as Bree just said, it's a more emotive strategy that hits on those pressure points that really speak to people like me, right? And while I always thought that I was less subject to pandering, I realized that I was being pandered to, but was like pandered to in a highfalutin way. So being pandered to in a 5-star suite versus being pandered to outside a brewery, it feels different, right? Oh, but I'm in a 5-star suite. I'm being courted. They're courting me. Oh, they're making this nuanced, argument. Oh, wow, this is really nice. The room is really well appointed. Oh, they sent their best operatives. Being pandered to is being pandered to, right? And what I'm hearing in this conversation is that we need to kind of get past that, hey, this is blatantly about race, and get to a point where you tout policies. Now, not everything can be solved by the whole class and policy argument. I'm not saying that, right? I'm not saying you can eradicate racism, but you can address some of the ills. You can address some of the damage done by systemic racism with sound and solid policies. Now, that's why I was fucking fangirling over Elizabeth Warren. We don't stand politicians, but you get what I'm saying for this argument. Because of the policies that the policies, y'all, a plan for that. And I just really wish I could have saw more of that with the Bernie campaign. And it wasn't pandering per se. It was just like, there's a policy prescription for this issue, right? That deals with race and class. And guess what? We're engaging people who've been at the forefront of this discussion to actually craft this policy. And then what? We're actually going to go out and we're going to campaign for these policy prescriptions, right? And that's what I wasn't seeing on Bernie's side. But back to this conversation, this is important because as we engage voters, right? Joe has to engage voters on the right. I would argue you can engage voters on the right with a similar strategy, with a strategy that you can develop a strategy and a policy argument that can speak to both sides, right? Instead of ignoring it completely and just going to where your donor base is, you can make a policy argument that everyone can really kind of get behind it, or at least say, you know what, that sounds pretty good, and make that argument. He doesn't have the heft we need. We deserve a bad bitch. We do. We deserve a baddie. We deserve a 10. We don't deserve this shit right here where you just do the bare minimum and try out your son. And he's a sweet looking, nice looking little boy. But like, I'm tired of seeing that shit. And I'm not attracted to you physically. So like that shit don't work on me either. Like, I don't know what the fuck. Y'all trying out everything but the right thing. And I don't understand that. That's my whole thing. Right? Right. Anyway, let me continue real quick. I don't know why I kept shorting out like that. But
changing whether or not people feel like racism is the only crutch they have in this world that is increasingly precarious.
But the formulation that you read isn't that at all. In some ways, the formulation is to say, look, our
Listen. So she was quoting his book and asking and why I like this conversation is because it's discourse. This is how our conversation should sound. It shouldn't sound like I ask you a question, you answer it. You ask me a question, I answer it. It's like, let's unpack the shit you just said when talking about these candidates. Don't troll me on Twitter. Pick up your phone and actually engage me as if you know, motherfucker, I read papers. Don't let the profanity and don't let the accessibility like make you think that I am not an educated voter, that I'm not a voracious reader. Like that's the thing that really pisses me off about these operatives. They treat me and treat other black voters as if they're not well versed. And whether it's a classic education, whether it's whether it's at Harvard or if it's at the Harvard on the Hudson, NJCU, New Jersey City University, right? Whether I got my degree from the Harvard on the Hudson or literally Harvard, you should be engaging me as if I'm a smart voter because they are smart. Lived experience is enough. You don't have to go and get degrees and credentials. And I'm just so tired of being engaged like a fucking box that you check. And you gonna put, Black women for Joe. Can we make you, and that's what they come with. Can we make you the head of Black women for Joe? Fuck you. Fuck you. No, I'm not saying that's what somebody offered. I'm just saying that's the kind of shit, the kind of carrot they dangle in front of people because they just haven't learned how to respect the Black voting base. And the Democrats here in the state of South Carolina have not made them do that. They have not made them respect the Black political power that comes in this state. Black people literally shifted the entire national race for president. And we still treating Black voters as if they're just going to show up anyway because our Black leadership pretty much delivers us to them like hogs to slaughter, period.
Our politics in this country have been and continue to be constrained by our overwhelming desire to appeal to that particular kind of voter. The Trump voter, the latest name for the silent majority, the latest name for the forgotten American, the latest name for the Reagan Democrat.
This is who Joe's going after. Let me just rewind that. Let me bring that back like a good DJ. Let me bring it back a little bit.
Look, our politics in this country have been and continue to be constrained by our overwhelming desire to appeal to that particular kind of voter. The Trump voter, the latest name for the silent majority, the latest name for the forgotten American, the latest name for the Reagan Democrat. And those voters are at the center of the political imagination. And so you make, whether you're Clinton, where you're coming out of the Clinton model, right, or Clintonism or the third way, right, that particular voting constituency guides and directs how you imagine what's politically possible. Going back to the pragmatic.
So who's at the center of South Carolina's political imagination? And you can tell who's at the center of South Carolina's political imagination when you look at the candidates that they prop up.
Invocation, right? We can't do this because these are our constraints. These particular voters who vote, these are the ones who hold these views. We can't imagine doing X, Y, and Z. I disagree with that view, right? So I want to decenter, right, that particular political model. Now, then I layer on top of that, right, not only the kind of desire to appeal to the disaffected white working voter, the person who participated in the Hard Hat Rebellion in 1970 that we've been trying to attract ever since they left, right? I layer on top of that, right, that oftentimes what it means to appeal to that voter is that we have to then mute certain questions or considerations around racial justice that hampers or hamstrings the very conception of democracy that we are trying to put forward. So we have to lift all boats in some ways. We have to pass policies that we know will disproportionately impact people of color, but we can't say it, right? Why? Because we don't want to alienate these folk, because that would be politically naive to say it, because we wouldn't be able to get this, that, and the other done. And in making that move, we actually fertilize the soil for the very thing, the very commitments that short circuit a radical reimagining of this place. So part of where you and I don't disagree.
All right, so grimier stuff? Are you talking about the vote, or are you talking about the population of Black people in America? Because that's two different things, right? So if you want to talk about Black political power in South Carolina, that's different from talking about how, the percentage of Black people who exist in the country and how they vote. And not all Black people vote Democrat, right? And then you talk about 40% of the Latino vote or Latinx vote. And now you damn sure know that. If you ain't know that before. And see, that's the thing. That's the luxury I have of being raised in a place that, not just in the South, but being raised in the New York metro area. If you didn't know before the election that not all Latinx people, that is a lot of those who identify as conservative. So that's a different kind of conversation. No, it's not the same thing. I don't know what you're trying to say. I'm not dismissing you, but I'm just saying that's a different argument. Shout out, Justin. You talk about this episode of Bad Faith. Absolutely. They talk about This episode 49 on Bad Faith Pod was great. They do talk about Clyburn and custodial politics here, right? And what he's doing. And that's why I invite you all to read, to go and download this. After you download, subscribe, rate, and review Mic'd Up on I'm about to say my old place. After you Mic'd Up with Mika Guest, and after you do that on iTunes or Spotify or Google or wherever you get your podcast, I want you to head over there and I want you to listen to this episode. I think, Justin, you just said it was episode 49, where you hear Dr. Eddie Glaude talk to Glaude. Oh God, I'm just like with Mara's name. I can't say certain names. And it's so funny, right? I think I said this before on Twitch. I found an old stack of like old college stuff, and apparently I introduced him at my in undergrad. Have no fucking clue. I probably fainted because I was so afraid of public speaking in college. I don't know how the hell I was such a leader. But I introduced him at an event. Have no recollection of it at all. But that's crazy. So grimier stuff, you're saying same thing, and then you said Biden administration is giving illegal aliens. Okay, so we know that you're not really engaging in this conversation from the same perspective. We don't call anybody illegal aliens. So I don't know what that is. Ain't nobody illegal, and ain't illegal aliens. You talking about undocumented folks or dreamers? Because we're not introducing that kind of language in this discourse. Not here. It's too much to keep up with. I might have to read some of this for the chat. Yeah. It's okay. But you said something about the Biden administration giving legal. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. Yeah, that's not true. But I'm not gonna pop off. But that's not true. That's not necessarily true at all. All right. Grew up in South Florida. Conservatism is pretty popular. Yep. Exactly. You know, Cubans are definitely historically, Cubans tend to be, and those who, I'm talking about South Florida, those tend to vote conservative. Let me okay, we're in this careening car, right? I said we're in this careening car. We're gonna lunge from side to side on from topic to topic. We're gonna kind of land the plane here though. So I wanted to get to two videos. I thought I had them queued up. Oh, I got you. So this past weekend too, shout out to Hannah Raskin. I'm sure she don't mind that I mentioned her name. So I reached out to Hannah Raskin, who writes at the Post and Courier. And I asked her, like, yo, what do you think? Why do you think food and bev hasn't rebounded yet? Because if you go and listen to, after you download, subscribe, rate, and review Mic'd Up with Mika Gadsden on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play, after you do that, I'll grant permission. I'll allow it. Go ahead and check out the Understand SC podcast on the Post and Courier. I'll allow it. I ain't gonna lie. They had about a 3-episode run, had me on the edge of my seat. And go to the episode about food and bev, where they talk to the owners of Butcher and Bee, and they talk to Hannah Raskin, and she goes in depth about what current food and beverage hospitality, what it looks like right now as we are coming out of COVID, how it looked during COVID, and then like what it's going to look like potentially in the future, right? She has this really interesting conversation with the reporters from the Post and Courier. So I just, on a whim yesterday, after I got an interview was canceled that I had, I was like, let me just text Hannah Raskin and like, yo, what are your thoughts, right? And see if she responds, because I'm sure she's busy. And she's super dope. Like she responded. And I'm not going to go into depth about our exchange per se, but I will read the things that she's pretty much reported on, right? So she says that everyone in food and bev seems to know someone who is getting his or her real estate license. She thinks that's one contributing factor, right? She also thinks that restaurant owners, they've pointed to construction, which is paying more money to staff that left food and bev and now are working in construction. I didn't hear that one before, right? So real estate, construction, those industries are luring some folks away. She's seeing, she's hearing. She said a lot of folks have moved back home, and they were uncertain about the future, and so they're still probably in that waiting period. I reached out to a local restaurant owner. I'm not going to name the restaurant or not owner, but I'm not going to name the restaurant and that manager at that restaurant. But I asked that one as well, and they offered up, that they think that perhaps people are still receiving stimulus package benefits, and that's making it hard for people to come back, right? Mara, you said the big factor is moving to real estate for real? So you kind of confirming that too? Right. Okay. And so, okay. I don't know who this grimier stuff guy is. I don't know what you were talking about. What lies? And this is not about communism. We're not even talking about communism. And communism is not a dirty word on this live stream either. So get out of here with that. But anyway, so those were some things shared by both Hannah Raskin and a local manager in food and bev, right? All right. So I wanted to play this. Let me see. Oh, okay. I'm going to play this. This is not Charleston, y'all, but I remember, around early March, I stumbled across this, and I thought this got my attention. Shout out Jim Thorpe.
Last Thursday, I worked from 7 a.m. to 1, and I walked with $16. And my gas was $25, so it actually cost me money to go to work that day.
Oh, we forgot the tiros.
Right now, you're working, for me, 3 times as hard for about half the cash.
Susan Blymeyer has been a server for 20 years. She'd always thought it was a great job until suddenly it wasn't.
What happened to your employment over the months after the pandemic started?
It pretty much died. Anything I can do for side money, I'm willing to do just to keep my family afloat.
Some sort of economic downturn spurred by a pandemic or whatever, market crash, bubbles pop, all of that, right? But think about the kind of industry that leaves its workforce so without, and again, I don't think this is just specific to food and bev or hospitality, but just think about how that collapse looked. Because we saw other people who had to clean houses after a 2008 crash and whatnot, right? And do all kinds of odd jobs. But I'm just thinking about 20 years as a server, and then do you have a 401k, right? Even in 2008, right? If your 401k plummeted, if you left it alone for more, you probably could see some of that come back during the recovery. But do you have that type of safety net? Do you have that type of support from your employer in terms of benefits, right? Do you have any of that to draw upon if there is some sort of economic downturn? Am I still on? What happened? What happened? What? I have no clue what happened. What happened? It just went out? I have no clue what just happened just now. This is crazy. Oh man, that sucks. I don't know what happened. Jesus. Okay. It went quiet. Where did it stop? This is crazy. I never had that happen before. Damn, I was rolling. I was just about to finish. Okay. Sucks. I got my Ethernet. Maybe my internet went out. There was a power out. Y'all, okay. Oh no, that sucks. I don't know. Can you hear me? Y'all can hear me, right? Oh man, I had 30 people watching. Okay. I'm gonna play the video.
And then go clean.
Did you see yourself doing this?
No. Not at 37 years old. Starting your day at 4 or 5 a.m. and going till 10 or 11 at night, it's a lot.
Are you able to make up the difference of what you would have been making in the restaurant?
Not close, but it definitely helps.
Restaurants have been ravaged by the pandemic, opened and closed and opened and closed by ever-changing COVID guidelines. And it's women, who make up about 58% of entry-level positions in the industry, who are hit the hardest. Servers are in a particularly desperate spot. Unemployment is based on the small amount they would have earned in wages, not counting their tips.
Unfortunately, a lot of what servers have income-wise is cash. It's not recorded, which can be good, but it also bites you in the end.
What were you the most worried about?
As the breadwinner and a mother, it's doubly stressful.
Why does it matter if you hit A or Y for the gas?
Because this one's gas and this one's like brake.
So I've been hitting the brake the whole time?
Yeah.
January was really, really hard. There was times where there was absolutely like nothing to eat here.
Okay, and if it went out about the time of, like, she was talking about how all the odd jobs, if y'all heard that, let me know, but like she was talking about shoveling the snow, she was talking about cleaning houses and all that other stuff. And so it just made me think about, granted, this is in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. I wanted to ask, I wanted to kind of seek more, and I have no definitive answers. It seems like the answers are layered and complex. But I was wondering, like, why hasn't it rebounded? If you listen to that podcast episode, you see that, like, these restaurant owners are pulling out all the stops to woo back that workforce. Everything from, of course, increased wages to whatever, like just really casting that net far and wide. But specifically, I'm seeing the increased wages. So they're paying people more, which makes you think, well, damn it, if you're paying people more now, could you have paid them more before, right? So paying them a more competitive wage, right? All right, I'm about to get off because it's like I gotta get off at 9. But I wanted to hop over here to IGTV, and also, and I admitted this to Hannah. Like, I don't want to speculate too recklessly, but last year we saw, like, I opened up a conversation about the mistreatment of, I would say, primarily the women staff who work in hospitality and food and bev, their mistreatment. And I wondered if that was a factor, right? So I remember, like, I'm only going this way because I couldn't find it on YouTube right away. And now I'm going, oh, here we go. So I posted this video from another Vice video, right? And I'm gonna read this. I'm gonna read your comments in a second. But I posted this video
when the Me Too movement started going.
And this is a reason why I posted this, because it's about Charleston. It has women from Charleston's food and bev and hospitality industry talking about harassment. And like I mentioned this to Hannah yesterday, was like I kind of like I asked a question and then got inundated by people's personal experiences, young girls' personal experience with either Me Too issues or people's experience seeing how race was a factor. And then people sent me a lot of screenshots of a lot of your favorite establishments owners really making these really gross jokes and sharing gross content around the pandemic about race, racially charged, racially insensitive, racist, explicitly racist memes and jokes and group threads that was meant for staff, right? As if screenshots aren't a thing. And so I couldn't really explore that because I was out of my depth, right? We're talking about not just the complexities of race at work, but also some of the allegations that were being levied were just really, really tough and not something I would even remotely, just oh, let me blast this restaurant, right? And plus, a lot of the people who sent me things really felt like they just needed a vent. They needed someone to trust and talk to. And I kind of played that role in a very small way. I'm not saying that I was a counselor or anything, but in a very small way, I spoke to, listened. But I want to just play a little bit of this conversation.
How many times have you told someone you're not on the menu? Like, oh, I'll take a side of you. You're like, that's cute, but also, what do you want? Like.
So when the Me Too movement started going this summer, it just started accelerating, right? Then it seemed like every 3 days, a big famous guy would go down for harassment or sexual assault. What were you guys thinking when you started reading those headlines?
I was honestly kind of surprised that there weren't more men that were being accused in the restaurant industry. That's also part of the industry itself. It's just that camaraderie, the lines get really blurry and there's like fun banter, but then some people don't know where the boundaries are. And we've all been around it. There's just a certain kind of like ass slapping kind of attitude that goes on.
It's a lot. It's overwhelming, and it's hurtful, disappointing, and these are our careers and these are our lives, and we should be able to work in them and thrive in them.
Belly, you came out as a trans woman while working in a kitchen, so you have a very unique perspective on this.
Yeah, I've definitely seen both sides of this debate. I've definitely seen a lot of pretty harsh sexual harassment from the kitchen, especially towards the women in the front of house. A new girl, might be 16 years old, walks in to get a hostess job, and all the guys in the kitchen are scrambling their door to look out the people and go, I have dibs, I saw her first, she's mine, no one can touch her. And this is total power, ownership. For me, it was really shocking after I transitioned and I tried to open up to some of the other girls at the restaurant, and they're like, well, that's just part of what we deal with. Welcome to being a woman.
Okay, and I'm gonna end it there. And again, I'm not saying that I am saying that I think there are a number of factors. Let me switch my view. I'm really mad that my stream went out, y'all. Y'all don't know how pissed I am. Not pissed, but let me switch it up. So I think the answer to why food and bev here in Charleston hasn't rebounded is complicated. And I want to read Mara. I want to read your comment. That's the big discussion in food and bev, in the food and bev industry right now. Was at a bev conference last week. Operators, suppliers, and agencies had deep roundtable discussions on necessary changes that have to happen. Now on the operator side, to attract and retain staff, benefits changes the hours and days open due to limited staff, right? And they talk about this. Hannah Raskin's reporting talks about the how even the days of operation have changed, right? Also explore the health benefits, mental health support. Exactly. So that's great to hear that conversation is happening. And again, the reason why I played this last clip wasn't to fan flames of, hey, it's just this bacchanal of just seedy behavior. No, right? And I know not every restaurant is managed the same way. All of that, right? But I do think that this is a time for y'all know I'm very critical of tourism here and the tourism industry, which is buoyed largely by food and bev, right? Without food and bev, without hospitality, there really wouldn't be any tourism history here outside of really gross representations, ahistorical representations of history, right? Of culture and whatnot. But I think we're at a point here in Charleston where we have to have these conversations about the conditions. What are you wooing them back to? What are you wooing your workforce back to? And for those who are listening, who are maybe not as active in terms of the comment section or might be viewing this later, and you work in food and bev and you're thinking about going back, it's okay. Or find ways to ask your previous employer or your new employer what makes conditions better. Like coming out of COVID, I think this is what the progressive left has been successful at. And I said this to Hannah yesterday in our text message exchange. Like the progressive left has been doing a really good job with videos like the previous video, not the last video, but the previous video from Vice News, Now This, and all these other types of outlets have really centered the workers' experience. And they speak about the conditions at working at restaurants, right? It's in COVID, before COVID, coming out of COVID. And I think it's okay right now for workers to start to have those conversations and talk about things like, what does better compensation look like? What do better benefits and better conditions look like? And I think that's where we're at right now. See, that's the thing about COVID. It could have been a restart button for so many different things and industries and causes. But I think that people's desire to just want to resume life and resume the status quo hindered some of those conversations. And I just want to invite people, I started out talking about Joe and how do we make Joe a better candidate? How do we make him a Democrat? Because quite honestly, he's not a Democrat to me, right? So how do we take Broham and make him a better candidate? How do we take these industries and make them better and center the experience of those who actually lift them up? Remember, candidates are applying for jobs. We're the hiring manager. And remember, now the restaurant industry, they're on the rope, so to speak. workforce, you have leverage. So if you want to go back, make sure you ask for something before you just say, yeah, I'll go back to shitty pay and, you know, a slap on the ass in the kitchen and all this other bullshit, right? No, you need fair and equitable wages, and you need fair and equitable conditions. And it's okay to leverage that. And this is the time when you have leverage, right? I bemoan all the time. I talk about all the time how like the local activists they kind of like fumble the ball and fumble the leverage they do have, right? And so this is the time. Do not let this moment pass. Do not just go into festival season just willy-nilly, just like happy to be in the room. Actually ask for something. Negotiate for better conditions. If not for your entire staff, for yourself specifically. Nicole, you said, have I heard about Renee Erickson's restaurant in Seattle? They all get insurance. What? The Pacific Northwest. They be floating some stuff out, especially Seattle. What? They all get insurance, pay $15 an hour, mandatory 20% tips that they share with the kitchen, 401k. Wow. Now I'm gonna look that up. Renee Erickson. Oh, wow. Okay. The first restaurant that does this down here is going to snatch up the best staff out of every You ain't lying. Jessica, can't believe what people have figured it out, treating your staff valuable. Right. Human beings. Right. Absolutely. And I know it's tough. I know restaurateurs. I know it's tough. Friends who own restaurants, I feel you. But you know, just think about how the workforce have had to scramble when things turn, right? I think it's time for businesses to have to be resilient and to be as resilient and adaptable as the workforce has always had to be, right? It's just time for us to be resilient and adaptable. And it doesn't mean that we have to be at a standoff or be at odds with one another. I think you can promote, just like politics, I think you could promote better workplace policies. You might not be able to mimic what Seattle's doing, but you can try something, right? Yeah. All right, let me get off. I'm about to get fired. All right. Sorry for the hiccup. Don't know what happened. Got my Ethernet on. I know there was some I don't know, because I don't think the power went out. I don't know. There was something going on. Maybe because I'm using my TV. I don't know. Jared, I'm blaming you. Nah, but thanks for rocking with me. Let's keep talking. This is one of my favorite live streams to date. I think we really covered a lot of ground, especially about Broham. All right, let's keep talking, y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. sharp. So I'm gonna say bye. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate y'all so much.